Check, check. I'm also rolling.
Hello, everyone. Did you shave?
What? It's Dumb and Dumber, baby. Let's be crazy.
Unbelievable you are.
It's called production value, Keith.
Is your facial hair considered production value?
It's commitment.
It's commitment.
Jake Shalou, our dear friend Jake, complimented my variety of hairstyles on the YouTube page.
Oh, good. That's nice. Are you responding to folks on the YouTubes?
I am.
I responded to Richie. You didn't. The last episode, he wrote a comment.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with Richie. I hung out with Richie for a considerable amount of time yesterday, and he was very complimentary about the show. Said he really genuinely enjoys listening to us, and he says, "Boy, Keith's got some really bad taste in films." And I was like, "I know," but he's like, "I really enjoy that perspective, though." So it's like you're representing such a lower level of intelligence to people like us that are like, "Thank God."
I can't be the only one that has the taste in films that I have. I can't be. I can't be. Like, there has to be. I'm begging for your support.
Well, this is a great lead-in to your number one favorite
to my
movie
number
of all
one
time.
film. This should be the most highly watched episode of all 19 of these. This is our 19th episode, Everett.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, it feels like 30.
It feels like a prison sentence.
It's not only 19. My God.
Yeah, and I fully believe that this should be the highest watched episode of What I Missed because it is the best film. Hands down.
The best film.
It's hands down the best film.
That's a take. Hands down. So make sure for all these hot takes, you click subscribe here and make sure you hit like down here. All right. So Keith, here's the problem. Is because the problem is not that this is a bad no, go ahead. You go. In the East Coast, in the classic East Coast way, go ahead. Go ahead.
I've never felt stronger about a film than I do Dumb and Dumber. My number one favorite film of all time is Dumb and Dumber. If you've ever had a conversation with me, if you've ever seen any one of these episodes, you could just know in your heart.
If you heard his wedding vows.
Yeah, if you heard, yes, the eulogy I had at my mother's funeral, it is Dumb and Dumber. Wholeheartedly, it is my favorite film by far. I'm in love with it. I'm in love with the film so much. And dare I say, it is the best comedy of all time. It is the best comedy of all time. And I just borderline don't want to hear anything else about it.
Tell her I'm rich, and I'm good looking, and I have a rapist wit.
I want to dissect and nitpick jokes in this film only because I'm just so sick and tired of hearing everybody say that this is a dumb comedy. Just because the title of every person I've ever talked to who thinks they know anything about film, and I'm not saying I do, clearly, but anybody who says they are well versed in film and they understand film, all the film students I went to with at Emerson College, everybody's like, this is just a dumb film. It's a dumb comedy with stupid jokes and it's gross out humor and blah, 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 blah. And while there are some stupid jokes in there, some surface level things in there, it is, I would argue, one of the most intelligent comedies of all time. There is a deeper level of comedy that a 13-year-old kid can watch it and see the surface level comedy, and then as an adult you can watch it and really see like, oh wow, there's some real nuance and some depth to these jokes and to these characters that it blows my mind if people can't see it. If people can't see it, I just don't understand. I don't understand how you can't see it if you think you recognize film.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack. I think Dumb and Dumber is great. Like I really do. So your opinion of loving it, I don't think is weird or wrong. I give you shit, as I think anyone should, about, and it's only because you're a film guy, and I think that's why. If you were
That's where you're wrong. I'm a loser. I'm not a film guy.
No, I know. But losers can be film guys too. You can be both.
Oh, great. There's hope for us out. There's hope for us yet.
Case in point. No, but I just think it's weird. It's weird. So maybe you can play this as being one of your strengths, right? Like, oh, I'm so unique. You're like the original hipster, where you're like, I'm a film guy, but I only like weird, overt comedy stuff. I think it's just weird if I'm, as another film person, if I didn't know you and we met and was like, oh, you love film too? Like, you're passionate about it? Yeah, you're a filmmaker? I'm a filmmaker too. What's your favorite film? Dumb and Dumber.
Yep.
Oh, so this guy's a moron. And so that's
that is verbatim every conversation I've had with someone just in this situation you described.
I don't think Dumb and Dumber is the best comedy of all time, but I do think that Dumb and Dumber has come to a point now, at this point in the cultural zeitgeist, where it is vastly underrated. So I will give you credit there. I rewatched it a week ago, or a little less than a week ago, and I mean, I loved Dumb and Dumber when it came out as a kid. When I was 11, 12, 13, and this movie came into my awareness, it really blew my mind. And as I rewatched it recently, I probably hadn't seen it in 10 years minimum. I hadn't seen it in a long time. And as I rewatched it, I was really shocked as I remembered how much this movie meant to me. Because in the last 7 years, it's just Dumb and Dumber, my only awareness of it is making fun of you for loving it so much. So I've started to think of it as it's Keith's movie. It's so stupid. He loves it that much. But as I watched it, I was like, oh no, this movie had a huge impact on me. And it was so funny and remains so funny. I watching it, I remembered musical cues and stuff where I used these songs in movies I made as a kid, like little kung fu fighting movies. I'd put these songs as the background, the intro song, over the opening credits. We did this all the time in our kung fu movies. I'll send a clip. It's a really great. It's really funny. So I don't think it's crazy to think it's one of the better comedies of all time, but I don't think it gets that credit now for some reason.
The reason being, in my opinion, is that people because the title is Dumb and Dumber and there's a fucking huge shit scene in it, they just write it off. It's just easy to write that off as something that's just not intelligent.
Yeah.
It's got an Academy Award-winning director.
I got a lot of people to thank, starting with the entire state of Rhode Island.
Yeah, Jesus. Let's not bring up
Academy Award winner.
I would say I feel like I can comfortably say that Dumb and Dumber is the Farrelly Brothers' best film. It came right in the middle of their other two considerations, Kingpin and There's Something About Mary. And then it really went off the rails for the next 10 or 15 years.
Yeah, it was it was the first of those three films. 1990, this film came out.
I thought Kingpin was first.
No. 1990, this film came out in 1994. Kingpin came out in 1996. Something About Mary came out in 1997 or 1998. Was
this their first movie, do you know?
Yes.
That's crazy. It's crazy. There's a lot of interesting things about this film. The fact that it came in 94, which is one of the all-time great years for a single performer with Jim Carrey.
Yeah, I mean, how crazy of a year is 1994 for Jim Carrey?
Yeah, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, and Ace Ventura.
So
you could not be a bigger star.
Yes, you could not. So they offered, from what I've read, they offered Jim Carrey about $700,000 to do this film. And in negotiations, Ace Ventura comes out. After that film comes out, he gets $7 million.
Yes! Yes! Oh, yeah! Can you feel that, buddy? Huh?
Yeah. The thing, I'll just dive into this, and you can tell me what you think. I think like I said, I really like this film, and I really think it's really, really funny. And it's funny today, even knowing half the jokes that were coming, because I remember I was laughing out loud like crazy. Like, it's really funny. And I'm a judge of comedies that don't age as well. I don't like Blazing Saddles because I just don't think it's funny anymore, not because of its horrible racism. I think the thing that makes Dumb and Dumber a special film, in my opinion, is rather simple, and it's the fact that Jim Carrey is not acting in a comedy film. Jim Carrey is not treating it like a comedic role. I think Jim Carrey's earnestness and the genuineness that he brings to a stupid moron character that in any other performer's hands would have been played so shticky and stupid and like would have literally been doing that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But Jim Carrey treats Lloyd Christmas like he is a fully fleshed out, thoughtful, real person. And throughout, it's not just the dramatic parts, which he like breaks into that dramatic part in the apartment, like, I'm sick and tired of having nobody.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really jarring scene in its sincerity. But throughout, even in the stupid shit, he is a very real, almost relatable person, even though he's the dumbest person in the world.
Yeah. I mean, you took a lot of the words out of my mouth, and I feel like the things that you were talking about is what is overlooked, because that is a level deeper than people want to give this film credit for. The word that I think best describes both of their performances, Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey, is sincerity.
I don't know about you, but I am getting sick and tired of running from creditors.
You know what I'm sick and tired of, Harry? I'm sick and tired of having to eke my way through life.
There is a sincere nature to these people and how they're playing it. And you mentioned the scene with Jim Carrey that motivates them to go across country and do this. That switch and that 3-minute scene where Jim Carrey acts and acts well gives credence to the whole film. Like, it makes everything okay. It makes you believe in this person. It makes you give these characters the benefit of the doubt. It gives them a depth and a realness to these characters. It's not just banana peels and farts, which most people think about this comedy just is. It's just snot on their faces, and that's it. But there's a real heart and a real sincerity to these characters and to these performances. And the best part of the film, the reason the film works, and you're touching on it, you're saying it. The reason this film works is that they are not in on the joke. Mm-hmm. Jim Carrey, even more than Jeff Daniels, believes he's intelligent.
I think I just had an idea.
Their dynamic within themselves is so interesting, which makes the film work even harder, is that Jim Carrey in this film almost pities Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels is like the dope, and Jim Carrey thinks he's the smart one. But they're both morons. But there's even a power shift within the way...
Well, no,
go ahead.
If anything, Jeff Daniels is the smarter guy.
Right.
Which is funny.
That dynamic is where so much comedy comes in, is that they're both stupid, but in different ways, and one thinks that they're superior to the other, and they're arguably not.
Yeah.
So they're just within their relationship dynamic of being best friends. There's comedy just within that nature of how they interact with one another, let alone the jokes that they're telling or the hijinks they're getting into. It's how they interact with each other. But again, I don't think people give it that second look to look at, like, oh, well, where is this comedy really coming from? What's happening here? Again, and sincere and honest, earnest performances bring these jokes to life.
So now, I thought I was going to say something else, but now you brought something up, I'm going to pivot. So I want to come back to the performances.
Yep.
But so I think that you bring up an interesting point where the intelligence of a movie like this gets lost in the stupid gags, the
Yep.
more like gross gags. And something I wanted to ask you about anyways was the whole concept of gross out comedies, which really became such a thing in the mid to late 90s before they sputtered out in glorious fashion with just horrible, disgusting films.
I'm being creative. Now, if you'll excuse me, I still have some work to do.
Daddy, would you like some sausage?
But the Farrelly Brothers were really at the forefront of that gross out comedy. And so I wonder, do you think that this movie, but not just this movie, but several others, are held back by that kind of juvenile nature? And I wonder if the movies would be stronger without that stuff. I'm not saying I think they would be. I'm just curious. I wonder if Dumb and Dumber would be held in higher regard, like a Coming to America or like a Trading Places, which doesn't have gross out comedy in it, if it didn't have that stuff.
100%. But that's what I challenge people to do. I think they should. I don't want to say look past it because you need to like.
Yeah, because it's in the film.
Because it's in the film, so it's not like, well, just don't pay attention to those parts. That's not what I'm saying. But I think you need to understand where that comedy is coming from, and I'll give you an example. So the biggest gross out scene that we've joked about before is the poop scene. I can name two other films that do the same thing. Two other films that do the same exact bit. One is Scary Movie 2, one of your favorites.
Well, who poops in that one?
The opening scene, James Woods.
But first I must bless this house.
I block out James Woods from just about all aspects of my life.
Yeah, I mean, his character aside.
The sorrows of death comes to me.
He starts reading the Bible, you know.
Okay. I'll let you make your point first. But this is a fucking spoof that you're talking about now. It's not a real world comedy.
But the point is, the question we're debating the merits of this gross out humor. And my point I'm going to make is that you have to understand where the comedy is coming from to warrant this joke. If you just do it in a baseless, crude way, then that's what it is. But if there's more to the joke, then it's valid. Then it becomes more of an intelligent thing than just what you're seeing. My point is, with Scary Movie 2, that's the joke. And the other film is The Other Woman. Is like sort of a rom-com with Cameron Diaz and Leslie Mann and another woman, and one guy is cheating on three women. So it's
Isn't it like a singer?
I've seen bits and pieces of the movie.
No, it's Kate Upton. Isn't it Kate Upton?
Maybe, yes. I want to say you're right.
Somebody who wasn't an actor. I remember that.
Yeah, okay, it sounds right. So these three women find out they're all sort of dating the same guy. One guy's cheating on everybody, blah, 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 blah. So a way to get him back, they give him X-Lax or whatever, just like Dumb and Dumber. And hilarious. So in both of those cases, the man shitting his pants is the joke. That is what's funny about it. That's what the attempt at being funny is, just that, oh my God. With Dumb and Dumber, the joke is not, the core of the joke is not him shitting his pants. In reality, that's the setup to the joke. In the film, there is one stakes to that moment in time.
And all this time I've been going through such pain and personal anguish. Such hell for nothing!
He runs into the bathroom. It happens relatively quickly. And then his performance, I think, is very good too, but that's neither here nor there in terms of like where the humor is coming from. The joke is not him shitting. The joke actually happens when she says the toilet's broken.
Huh?
The toilet doesn't flush.
No, I was just shaving.
That's the joke. The joke is now what does he do? His sheer panic of what that moment is the joke. because there's funny lines in there where she keeps coming back and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm shaving. I'm cleaning my teeth, not brushing my teeth. I'm cleaning my teeth." Where the comedy comes from is his panic within the situation. It's a completely different style of joke and a much more thoughtful joke that fits more into the actual narrative of the film. Because that actually means something. Him shitting his pants means something to the narrative of the film as well. I know you think it's funny as I'm dissecting a poop joke, but this is to me what separates it from other just gross out stupid comedy. A very, very long-winded answer that nobody cares about. But it's truly what I believe. I believe that there's more to all of those types of scenes than just what meets the eye.
I have a feeling I'm never going to think Dumb and Dumber is funny again after
hearing me talk about it.
So I really enjoyed it a week ago, and now that I'm going to hear this in-depth dissection of all the jokes and why it's actually 4 layers funnier than I think it is really going to pump up the humor. I don't know. I think when it came out, I mean, again, I was in my early teens, so I probably wasn't super hip to, but I feel like I was. I mean, I was really obsessed with movies and reviews and the environment, the feeling of films. And I think it was pretty well received when it first came out.
I can't give this movie thumbs up.
I don't think all these jokes and the depth to those jokes are missed.
In general, I think you put your finger on it when you say it's a sloppy movie.
I think maybe just now, as people kind of look back on it, because they haven't watched it in a long time, and you just remember him having diarrhea or, these random little kind of gross out jokes, that's what people think, so we dismiss it because we haven't seen it in a long time.
There are moments that seem to be very ill-advised and don't work at all.
But I think when people first saw it in 1994 and 1995, people got it, so I don't think it's like this completely shit-on movie, pun intended.
On the whole, I found the movie wasn't nearly as good as its best parts.
I don't think people realize also, and maybe they do, but there's some dark moments to that film. The whole sea bass thing is super dark.
Yeah.
The sea bass scene where he comes in for manly love on March 25th.
Yeah.
Do people realize that he's going to force him to blow him? Like that's
Jim
what
Carrey sucking his thumb is a really dark image at the end.
Where he's just like, find a happy place. Because he knows how real it's going to get, and there's nothing he can do to stop this man from sexually abusing him.
Even the stupid stuff is, this is bad segue. Anti-segue kings. Because I'm going back to, like, even the stupid stuff is really funny, and it's still funny, and that is untrue of most comedies from an era past, I think, and that is because of the strength of those 2 leads. I think Jeff Daniels' performance is good. I think it's very good. It's not quite, like, Jeff Daniels knows he's in a comedy, I think. Like, he's acting comedic. He's intentionally trying to be funny in some scenes, diarrhea scene included, where he's cross-eyed and, like, that's not like a realistic reaction per se. Who knows? But what I really love about Jeff Daniels' performance is his physicality. I really noticed the way that he carries himself and the things that he does with his body are on, like, a really high level, I think, in terms of performance. And on that note, I would ask you, can you guess what my biggest complaint is? If I'm going to be critical of the film, can you guess what that biggest complaint is, generally speaking?
I don't know. There's nothing that jumping out to me. Is it something like story related? Is it something like plot related? No.
No.
Is it performance related?
Yes. I think.
What is it?
I think that with the exceptions of Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels, and Mike Starr, who plays I forget his name, the big guy.
The goon,
I always think he's Danny Aiello, but he's not
It's
Danny
not
Aiello.
Danny Aiello,
He's Mike Starr. With the exception of those three guys, I think everyone in that movie is awful as a performer. I think the acting is top to bottom terrible, like comedically bad. And that includes, heartbreakingly, the great Teri Garr, who's a very small role, the stepmother, I think, Lauren Holly's stepmother.
I think you kids will have a wonderful time. What do you say?
But I don't think Lauren Holly is a good comedic actress. I think she does okay in her serious scenes, but when she tries to be funny, I don't think she's good. I think the fucking villain is laying it on in all, like that actor, I knew his name for a second, my God. That man is really dialed up.
Oh, how nice for you. Don't forget that your bread plate is on the left.
The woman, the edgy woman, the hitman woman, they're all
Duff.
bad. Everyone is awful.
Yeah, well, so Duff was a VJ, MTV VJ of fame.
Oh, Karen Duffy? That's who that is?
That's who that is, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm going to give you to Todd 1, and Todd 1's on the phone right now. So hang on. Todd, come on, don't be fretting on me.
I don't pay much attention. I guess I should pay much more attention. Like, I think their performances are serviceable for what they're being asked to do. None of those other people are being asked to deliver noteworthy performances. The people who are being asked to
What does that mean? What are you talking about?
So
you're the main villain in a film? You're the main villain and you're not supposed to give a noteworthy performance? Like, you're still supposed to be good.
I'm not looking for that kind of like range. I'm not looking for that guy to steal the show. You know?
It's not stealing the show, but it's just being like competent. Because here's the thing is, as you are forced to defend this film as your favorite film of all time and being maybe the best comedy of all time, think about how much stronger your ammunition would be if every performance was like, oh shit, yeah, they're not stealing the show, but it's solid. It's a really good performance.
Sure, I have to concede on some level to that, but the film is made by Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey. Like, they are 90% of the film. Like, how much screen time does that guy have? How much screen time does even Lauren Holly have? Like, the film, it's just 90% these two characters and their relationship and the hijinks that they get into. So, like,
I left one person out who does give a great performance.
Who's that?
I forget his name, but he's the blind kid.
Billy from 4C.
I just thought he was real quiet.
The blind kid is phenomenal.
Yeah,
I just thought he was real quiet. Is that line since I was 12 years old slays me. Like, I fall off the couch.
Yeah, there's that movie, this, and I don't know which is more quotable, this or Anchorman, because I do think Anchorman is one of the most quoted films of all time. But there is so many quotes from this film.
That's what I was blown away from, honestly. It was, I obviously like this movie more than Anchorman because Anchorman is subpar.
That's not a good start, but keep going.
I was shocked because I hadn't seen this movie in so long, by how many lines are just in my everyday vocabulary, and it's been so long that I don't even remember that they're from Dumb and Dumber. So
greatest comedy of all time.
A couple examples. I say suck me sideways all the time.
It's a great line.
Suck me sideways.
I say it all the time. And I thought it was from American Pie, because in my head they say suck me beautiful in American Pie, and I think I grouped that all together. But I say suck me sideways all the time. It's from this. I love when he goes, goodbye my love. I say goodbye my love all the time. That's one of my favorite scenes when he crashes.
Yeah. I love when he tries to bite the airbag to pop it.
Yes, that's the part.
It's so funny.
And he kind of yells fuck. He kind of yells fuck while he's doing it.
Yeah, it's so funny. He's just struggling. He just tries to bite his way out of it.
When he's walking out with the big gulps.
The big gulps.
Big gulps, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
all right.
See you later.
I say that. I end most of my conversations that way.
Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
And then lastly, this isn't one I say all the time, but I always laugh, and I remember being a kid and laughing so hard when he leaves the old woman on the scooter to watch the newspaper, and he goes,
"Don't you go dying on me."
Yeah. Well, that leads me to, there's just so many quotes. There's 100 more. I could name 100 more quotes.
Our pet's heads are falling off!
She gave me a bunch of crap about me not listening to her enough or something. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention.
Those are good.
We landed on the moon! Why would she have you meet her in a bar at 10 in the morning?
I just figured she was a raging alcoholic.
But that leads me to, Jim Carrey. I know we have to talk about his performance. I know we have already, but I really want to hammer home a good chunk of these things that we're talking about. I think were his personal touches. Like "Don't Go Dying on Me," I think was his line. The "We Landed on the Moon" was improv by him. I laugh so hard every time. I find the smallest things to laugh at. When they're looking up this line, Swimmy, Swanson, Samsonite.
I was way off.
Jeff Daniels goes, "I'm not singing it, Lloyd," and he goes, "She must be unlisted," and then tries to see his breath.
She must be unlisted.
Because it's so cold, it's cold, and he's so fascinated for just that moment. He's just like,
yeah,
she must be unlisted. That subtle, that's not in the script. That's just him seeing his breath is not in the script, but it's so that character. It's so honest and genuine to the amazement and wonder for that split second to see his breath as he's figuring out in his head if she's unlisted in the phone book that used to be a thing. There used to be phone books.
It makes me so sad that, to that note, kids, you don't know what phone books are, that younger people today will never really know Jim Carrey for his abilities. What a shooting star he was.
Yeah.
And and not just because he was the flavor of the day. He was such a big deal.
Yeah.
He was the biggest star in the world and earned it. Rightfully so. Because he was so talented, and he is, I don't mean to be past tense, but so talented. And there's an alternate reality where he doesn't do Man on the Moon and kind of go a little crazy, where he just continued making amazing comedies for his whole life, which I kind of long for, but I also love what we have. But if you just, if you're 22 years old and you hear your fucking dad telling you how funny this guy Jim Carrey was, and now he's just Joe Biden on Saturday Night Live, and he's in a lot of kind of weird dramas.
Yeah.
And then they're like, watch Ace Ventura, that's funny, and you're like, this is stupid.
This doesn't make sense for that
it's
time.
It's just so sad because he was really such a thing.
Lloyd.
Just go.
I think this is uniquely Jim Carrey, and he mixes these brutally funny physical moments, and I say physical, his facial expressions, just you can read his comedy so easily, and he mixes that with just blips of sincere emotion.
Yeah.
Throughout the film, we mentioned it earlier before, with I'm tired of having nobody. That's a real honest moment. But even later when he's confessing his love and he's nervous and he says, "I just really want to make love to a schoolboy," which I've said that way too many times.
No, I agree. I've heard you say it many times.
And the older that film gets, the less people realize
they're not quite getting that reference.
Yeah.
I desperately want to make love to a schoolboy.
But he really struggles. I think he does a really good job embodying someone who's genuinely nervous to tell a girl that he likes her.
Yeah.
I think that's he plays that emotion very well. It's not goofy or silly, it's genuine nerves. And he's mumbling things out, and his reaction to him saying no, wait, that's not zany, that's real, that's honest. Yeah. It's things like that. So you're telling me there's a chance. That whole moment is really well performed. And to be able to switch from comedy to sincere and almost play it virtually interchangeable.
Yeah.
That talent is just, I think, overlooked, vastly underappreciated to be able to do that. Because that sincerity balances out the zaniness and craziness, and it makes it a complete film. It makes it complete because of that. Where shitty comedies today are just like more fart jokes, more banana peels, more people falling down, and roll credits.
There's zero self-awareness to his performance, because a lot of people do that on accident, right? There's a lot of really talented actors, comedic actors, that can't go all the way there. And because Jim Carrey breathes such life into this character and is this person, that makes all the stupid shit okay and palatable because it's not Jim Carrey. You know, like there really is some strength to that.
I like you a lot.
So the thing I want to talk about next was the ending of this movie, the final gag. I'm not trying to be funny. When I was like 12 or 13 or whatever, I was genuinely heartbroken.
You'll have to excuse my friend. He's a little slow. The town is back that way.
And I almost didn't like it.
Wow.
Because, you know, at that age, it's everything. It's everything. And I just thought, like, this is a bridge too far. Like this joke is too much. This is not funny. And especially, I remember the first time watching it and thinking that Jim Carrey was going to right that wrong. Right? It was like my mind, I just couldn't comprehend when Jeff Daniels told him to go the other. And I was just like, no, you guys, like I can't. And then Jim Carrey runs it down, and I was like, thank God. You know, and then he does his thing, and I like almost stormed out of the house. Like I was just so upset. And so there's still this little taste of that to me every time I watch it. Obviously, I think it's very funny, it's hilarious, but really, really tough beat for those guys.
Well, as they said, they'll catch their break. They just got to keep their eyes open.
Oh, God.
That is, I couldn't tell you how much I loved that ending. I remember passionately being like, this is genius. Like that was my rosebud. The point of the film is they're meant for each other and they're in love. Like it's a beautiful romantic story between these two guys. I mean, that's really what it is. Like as long as they have each other, they're gonna be okay. And they're you know, and it doesn't, they're never gonna have that success or that fame or that easy life or whatever. But they have each other, and that's all that matters. That is all that matters to those characters. And I love that. I love bitter, and you love that too. Like all your majority of your films on this list end in sort of like a bittersweet way.
I think a lot of comedies are sort of run parallel to my strengths as a filmmaker and my weaknesses, where they start great, they start strong, great idea, it's a great premise, and then you got to try and tie this up in a way that makes some kind of sense, but it's still funny, because a point you've made to some extent in the past is that story takes second to comedy. And it's hard in comedies to really try to round that turn at the end in the third act to wrap everything up, because it's almost as if there's friction between a good story and like comedy.
Yeah.
Like, so trying to wrap things up nicely is inherently at odds with being funny, which probably isn't always true, but it just is a very general statement. And I think that this movie, for all intents and purposes, it does a good job. It gets a little, it almost gets a little wacky at the end in terms of story, but it doesn't, because that's kind of the story. So it teeters, but it does a really good job of, okay, now all of a sudden there's guns and a supervillain and an FBI agent, you know, and all this stuff, which isn't what the movie is about, really. So that's...
I'll argue a little bit, and something I'm glad you reminded me, because, again, another reason why I think it's the greatest comedy of all time is because of this story. This story does have, take the comedy out of it, it does have some twists and turns. Like, it's not a straightforward, oh, we gotta get to prom night, and now prom night's here, and now the movie's over. Like, it's not just they gotta get to Aspen. Like, things happen along the way. They kill that guy. You don't really, you never know what's in the briefcase. Like, you learn that midway through, then you learn that someone's been kidnapped, then you learn it's her wife or her husband. You know, like, you learn it's an inside job. You learn these things as the film goes on. Then you learn that girl that they've both been talking with is an FBI agent that's been tracking them the whole time. Like, you could remove the comedy, and that could be a drama. Like, you could play that narrative as any which way you wanted to do it. Yeah. And that, to me, again, is super impressive to do for an out-and-out hilarious comedy thing, with comedy being the goal. To weave in that story, it keeps you entertained on that level too, where other comedies don't do that. Yeah, this reminds me of a point I did remember wanting to make, which was, I'm really impressed by the originality of this movie, and I'm really we always talk about, you know, as filmmakers ourselves. That should be the name of the show. As filmmakers ourselves, you know, with quotes around filmmakers.
Let me tell you a little something about film production, because clearly Keith does not know.
I'm just fascinated by people who can write original stories that like, this doesn't seem the kind of thing you could go pitch to a studio. Like, I just think, like, one, how do you convince someone to make that movie? And two, how do you even come up with this idea? You know what I mean? Like, I have comedy ideas, and they feel a lot more structured, I guess, in a way that's like, oh, this happens, so this happens. But this is like, it's a heist movie, it's a kidnapping thriller, it's a comedy about effing morons, it's slapstick, it's gross out, it's, you know, it's all these things, and I'm just really blown away by that. Yeah, agreed, and I just think that's another thing that this film deserves credit for doing. I would assume, and maybe this is just how I sort of think of things, because these are the type of films I want to make. Again, less gross out humor and get more into the intelligent side of humor.
Alexander Graham Bell called, and he wants you to jerk it.
For argument's sake, this has a plot, this has a narrative, this has twists and turns, and I want to make films like this. And I think the way to do that is, don't set out to make a comedy. Set out to make a good film, write that film, and then add the comedy to it. Yeah. Find the positions that people would naturally be in within the construct of your story, then add comedy to that scene. How do we embellish it? How do you push it one way? How do you push it another way? What can we add to it? Because if you just start with comedy, then you're only going to be looking for jokes rather than a cohesive story. I don't think you can get a good film by going comedy first. Yeah. All right, Keith. Dumb and Dumber, closing. Anything else? Is that it? It's the greatest comedy of all time. And you don't get it. I would tell people, I mean, Keith is stupid, right? Like, Keith is a moron. But Dumb and Dumber is a really funny film, and it is a really, really good comedy. You should go watch it, because it's just great. It's just great. And I would argue, like, it makes me sick a little bit. It makes my skin crawl to agree with you this much or defend one of your choices. But if you don't think Dumb and Dumber is a good movie, like, you're wrong. Like, I'll say that. Yeah. I'll say that. I love that. You're missing it. I love that. I love that out of you. So together we can prove all other pretentious people wrong. So Everett's on board. We've turned one pretentious asshole into one of us. We need you. We need you now more than ever.